There's an option within a lot of 401ks that I know that has become very, very popular over the years that I want to share a little bit of information on. And what I'm talking about are life cycle funds. It's become a very easy way within 401ks to make your selection. Now, some life cycle funds or age-weighted funds, depending on where you might work or where your 401k is currently, will have sometimes a year assigned to it, meaning that's your target date as far as when you plan on retiring. And it's become a real easy way to make your selection and just kind of move forward. And if you don't have much money invested in the 401k, meaning if you have less than, say, $100,000 invested within it, a life cycle fund or an age-weighted fund, whatever they're referring to it as, can be a viable option. But I think if you have more than $100,000, then you may want to consider some other options within that 401k. Basically, what these life cycle funds are is that they're just a fund of funds. So they're a collection of mutual funds within the product selection that you could just choose from individually. What that means is that it's just going to kind of add an extra layer of fees. Each one of the mutual funds within your portfolio are going to have some costs, but then when you go into a life cycle fund, it's going to have a little extra cost added in on top of it. So you really have to watch out for how expensive these funds can become. It's not unusual for us to see life cycle funds or, again, age-weighted funds charging in excess of 2% per year, sometimes even more. Over a lifetime, that can add up to tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of unnecessary additional fees. Another thing that you need to watch out for, though, is misleading names or titles. If they don't have a date or a target date or a year in which you've selected, they might have a real generic sounding term like moderate fund or U.S. investment fund or something of that nature. One real misleading name I think that we've seen in the past is the conservative fund option. We literally have seen some conservative funds in the past in years like 2008 lose as much as 30 or 40%. Something that loses 30 or 40% in my mind isn't very conservative. But that was literally the name that the 401k had given to that particular fund option. So watch out for misleading titles. They're not always what they say that they are, and they're not always what you assume them to be. Another thing that you have to watch out for is with these types of funds, typically, especially if they're age-weighted or they have a target date as far as when you plan on retiring, what they'll do is as you get older and closer to that targeted retirement date, they will start to automatically shift money from stocks and the stock market over into bonds and the bond markets. And again, when they do that, they're just using bond mutual funds, which those that watch the show, that we're really not a big fan of those at any point in time. But right now really is not a good idea to have money invested in bond funds, especially for individuals that are getting closer into retirement. The reason for that is because as interest rates go up, the value of bonds and these bond funds are going to go down because the bond funds are very interest rate sensitive. Even though interest rates have come up a little bit recently, we're still fairly close to historical lows. And all signals that we're seeing right now is that interest rates are going to continue to rise in the future. So what you may think could be happening with these types of funds is as you're getting closer to retirement, they're shifting more money over into bond funds, and you may think that that's a safer way to go. And in most cases, I'll agree that bonds and bond funds are safer than stocks or stock funds, but they certainly are not safe. They have a time and a place. It's just right now is not the time to be investing in bond funds, as we mentioned with the issues with interest rates. So that means that if you're getting closer into retirement in a few years, they really have no place within your 401k or anywhere in your portfolio for that matter. So if you have more than, say, $100,000 invested in a 401k, or maybe it is already an outside IRA where you're using these life cycle funds or age-weighted funds, you may want to consider shifting all or part of that money towards a self-directed IRA if you can with your employer. Sometimes once you reach age 59 and a half, you're able to do what's referred to as an in-service distribution or in-service rollover, where you can actually take money out of the 401k. You can still participate in it, you can still contribute to it, but you can actually take some of that money and just move that to an IRA. Once the money is over in an IRA, you can invest it in anything that you would like, whether it's life cycle funds or just traditional funds or ETFs or annuities, whatever it is that you want. If your plan does not allow that, then I would really encourage you to still consider shifting some of the assets that you have within that 401k or 403b out of these life cycle funds, and just pick from the list of funds that you have that has been made available to you. You should be able to reduce your fees and expenses some and get really better diversification than what you think you have currently with the age-weighted or life cycle fund. So if you would like to see if you can do an in-service distribution, or if you need advice or help with how to allocate your 401k, if you want to get away from these types of funds, then feel free to give us a call here at Strategic Wealth Designers. We'd be happy to help in any way that we can.